Hello guys, today I'm going to show you how to make the candy gun. The magazine comes out, it cocks back, and the trigger moves. What you're going to need are some pony beads, I use black and white, some string, I use 1mm fabric covered elastic, some scissors, a candy needle, 2 buttons, one for the front and one for the back, some kind of thick paper. I'm using some watercolor paper. And we're gonna start out by getting a bunch of string and tying on our candy needle. The first part of the gun that we're gonna make is the barrel. We're going to get 10 white pony beads, and then we'll tie it off like a single. Once we have it all tied, we can cut off the short end. Then we're going to put a bead on, skip a bead, and put this needle through the next one. Put a bead on, skip a bead, put the needle through the next bead. And we'll just keep building up until we have 20 beads long. And if you didn't cut enough string, you can always just cut off your needle and tie on some extra string. Once you have it tied on, you can just cut off the excess string. And we're going to take off that string that was on our candy needle and tie that string back onto the needle. Okay, now the tube is complete. We should have 20 beads long, and we're going to go ahead and just tie it off to itself. The tube is pretty floppy, so we're going to put some of that thick paper into the tube. Now that we have a piece of paper that is as long as the tube, we're just going to roll it up so that it's just big enough to fit into the tube. Mine was a little bit too thick, so I'm just going to cut off some of the paper. And now it should be just about the right size to fit inside. Now it's way sturdier and not floppy at all. Next, we're going to make the part that slides back. It's about 28 beads long and 10 beads wide. All right, let's go ahead and get our black beads and some string. We're going to put a bead on each string and then 1 bead on both strings at the same time, like this. And it should look about like that. And you're just going to keep doing that same process until it is 28 beads long. Now that we have our 28 beads, we can go ahead and start building it up. What I usually do is once I get a couple beads on there, I'll go ahead and tie off the other end so I can just work with that other string. And it does start looking a little bit wonky, but I swear it evens out. I'm going to cut off that other side of the string and tie it onto the string that we're working with. And then you're just going to keep going until it's 10 beads tall. Alright, now that we have that panel made, we can go ahead and start tying it onto the barrel. And as you can see, it's tied in 3 spots in the front and 3 spots in the back. Alright, we're going to find the middle of the panel and then go down 3 beads. And this is where we're going to tie the barrel to. And on the barrel, I went down 5 beads. And we're just going to go ahead and tie it off. Not super tight, but not super loose either. We just want it to be tight enough for the panel to stay in place, but still move back whenever you cock it back. Now we're going to go on the side and go down 5 beads, and we're down 3 beads on the black panel too and 2 over. And we're just going to do that same process of tying it on, not super tight but not super loose. It may take a couple tries to get the tension right on tying the string, but I know you can do it. We're just going to cut that off, and now it slides back. And we're just going to do the exact same thing on the other side. And here's just a little close-up of where you tie the string on the tube and where you tie it onto the panel. And now that both ends are tied on, we can go ahead and put the button on each end. Starting with the front, we're going to put the string in each hole of the button. And then we're going to tie each side of the string onto the front of the tube. Then we're going to slide the button all the way down and tie the other end onto the tube as well. Now we're just going to do the same thing on the back side. And now the top half of your gun is complete. Next, we're going to build the grip of the gun. We're going to take our string like so and put this pattern on it. And you're just going to keep building up. I'm going to do the same process where I tie the string off and tie it onto the other end. Here's where it gets a little bit tricky. The bead goes in one instead of keeping going up. And then it will go back out 1 bead and you can continue going up from there. And then once you have the full pattern done, you can just go ahead and tie it off. And then you're going to make another identical copy to this. Next, I'm going to show you how to make the back of the grip. We're going to make it 4 beads wide and 11 beads tall. You're also going to make another exact copy of this one, so you have 2 of them. Now it's time to tie all the pieces together. I'm going to start by tying on my string to one of the top beads, and then tying the candy needle onto the other end. How you stitch them up doesn't necessarily matter as long as they stay together. I'll do my best to show how I stitch them up, but I mostly just go up one bead and down the other bead in a diagonal form until they all stay together. It should start looking something like this. Now that we have that side on, we can go ahead and go through the middle and then out the other end so we can tie on the next side. Then we can go ahead and stitch on the last side. Once you have all 4 sides on, you can go ahead and tie those last 2 sides together. Then you can go ahead and tie it off. And it should look something like this. The next step is to connect the top and the bottom. And the next thing we're going to learn how to make is the magazine. You're going to want to put your string how we did before and start with this pattern. And we're going to build up until about here, where we're going to go in one, kind of like we did with the grip. But you're going to just keep building up with the two sides going in. You're also going to want to make another identical copy of this, and once you build all the way up, it should look like this. Now I'm going to show you how to tie the two sides of the magazine together. And just how we tied those others, we're just going to go up one bead and down the other. Once they're tied together on those sides, you're going to want to tie it along the bottom as well. And then you're going to tie it up the other side too. And then once it's all tied together, it should open just like this. Now I'll show you how to do the bottom of the magazine. We're going to take our string like so, and then we're going to add 6 rows of white. And it's going to be 6 tall as well. Now it's time to connect the two. We're going to tie on our string. And here's where I'm going to demonstrate how to tie the two pieces together. Now that it's attached, your magazine is complete. It should still open in the middle, and now you can go ahead and put it in your gun. But I'm sure as you notice, it's a little bit squishy in the middle. So we're just going to add some more of that hard paper, and we're just going to roll up this strip. Mine was a bit too wide, so we're just going to cut off some of that. And now it should fit comfortably inside of the grip. And the magazine should still be able to fit inside as well. Now is the trigger and the trigger guard. For the trigger, you're going to tie together 4 beads. And then we're going to add on 1 bead like ladder stitch and just put the 2 strings through the 1 bead. And then we're going to do the same thing with 1 more bead. Then you can go ahead and tie it off. Then we're going to travel both ends of our string up until they're coming out of the top. Just like this. Then we're going to go ahead and tie it onto the barrel by putting both ends of the string through the middle. Then we can just go ahead and tie it from there. Now that the trigger is on, it should look something like this. And now for the trigger guard. We're going to put 24 beads on a string and we're going to tie it together like a single. You're going to want to have 2 sides of 12. Now we're going to crisscross through each side. And when you pull it tight, it should start combining together. Once you've crisscrossed both of the sides, it should look something like this. We're going to attach it about 4 beads away from where we put the trigger. Now that we have both sides through that 1 bead, we're just going to want to go ahead and tie it off. And then we're going to connect the other end of the trigger guard to the grip. We're going to put a piece of scrap string through both sides of the other end. And then we're going to go down 5 beads from the top of the gun. And then we're going to put both ends of the string through 1 bead. And then we can just go ahead and tie it off from there. Now we're going to connect the trigger to the trigger guard. And then you're going to want to tie it off, but not super tight, but not super loose either, just so that it can still move. And then we can cut off both ends. Next, we're just going to tie a couple strings onto the trigger guard for some extra support. We're going to put the string in about 3 beads from the top. And then tie it to 1 bead in front of where the trigger guard meets the barrel. Then we're going to tie a string from the bottom of the trigger guard onto the gun. And there you have it, your Kandi gun. Thank you so much for watching.